Couple things last night I want to point out with regards to the welterweight champion Kamaru Usman, who's look, he's a really, really good fighter, Kamaru Usman. He really is. There was a couple interesting things that happened last night. So he was cage side. He was cage side alongside Jorge Masvidal, who I don't know what the hell Conor was referring to his coat as, a day coat or a house coat, I guess he's saying. I guess that's what the Irish old ladies wear. For those who didn't see it, Masvidal showed up cage side. He was wearing the old Versace robe that Conor wore famously. He and Floyd wore in the lead up to their fight. I believe Dwayne Wade is wearing one in his Instagram avatar right now, if you want to see what it looks like. But that's what Masvidal showed up to the fight as. Wasn't wearing one of his typical Miami Vice shirts. It was a cold night. It was a cold night in Vegas. I think it was like in the mid 40s or something like that. But they go to Usman. Usman's also there, and Usman had a weird night because his account got hacked. His Twitter account got hacked. Now, I said this to some buddies last night, and I sent him what Usman wrote to Conor McGregor, and I was like, this was my immediate reaction because I didn't see the storm that was about to start brewing on his Twitter account. But as soon as I saw what he wrote, and I'm not gonna, how can I describe what was written? Okay, Conor McGregor is an Irish meow meow. Expletive, I'll bleep your wife and slap the bleep out of you, you punk, at notorious Conor McGregor. And I will, and I'm not going to read the next one. I'm not even going to try to read the next one. But you guys can look it up. Just put up Usman hacked. You can see all the tweets that he put. But the first one, I was like, all right. I don't believe Kamaru Usman would write that. Kamaru Usman's a very, very nice guy. A very nice guy. We've had him on the show multiple times before. He's a sweetheart. He really is. I mean, he's terrifying in the cage, and will mess your life up. But he's a sweetheart. He really is. But he is managed by Ali Abdelaziz, who I wouldn't exactly put under the category of sweetheart. And Ali also manages Khabib Nurmagomedov. So it's kind of a thing known as people who follow mixed martial arts. It's a very niche thing. It's not a very important thing, but it's known. You see sometimes these guys will tweet outlandish stuff, and you're just like, oh, don't give Ali your password. It's almost like a joke that goes among everybody who follows these guys on Twitter. If you're a guy who is represented by Ali Abdelaziz and your Twitter account tweets something crazy, dude forgot to switch accounts. That's what basically, it's the thing that's gone down before. So when I saw Usman tweet what he tweeted, I was like, oh, well, clearly Ali is one tweeting from his account. I don't know if it was just a really crazy Hail Mary to get a fight or what. Now, it gets a little bit wilder after that. And then, as I said, there's a lot of racial slurs that are getting thrown out on Usman's account. And then I think the craziest thing was that they throw up the hacked accounts. Like, they say, oh, follow this account, get it to 1,000 followers. We give out his bank password. Then they tweet out they tweet out a screenshot of Kamaru Usman's bank account. It's got like over $500,000 in it. It crazy. Ali Abdelaziz then comes out and he goes, guys, Usman's Twitter account has been hacked. But the interesting thing was Dana White and Conor McGregor then come out in the aftermath of that, and they're like, he's like, I told Conor immediately that Usman's account was hacked, and Conor didn't believe him. And he didn't believe that Usman did it, but he believed what was my initial reaction, which was this was the makings of Ali Abdelaziz taking over Kamaru Usman's Twitter account and just tweeting something super nasty on Lynch. Now, mind you, Conor and Ali, they have gone low blow for low blow. I mean, they do not care for each other, and they do not pull punches. Verbal punches, I should say. They obviously have pulled physical punches. They haven't punched each other. But my initial reaction was the same that Conor McGregor's was, that I thought it had the makings of his manager tweeting that out, because obviously there's vicious bad blood. And also, if you're his manager, if Conor does bite on that stuff, then that would something that crazy. Like, it would take something that crazy for Kamaru Usman to really pony up and get into the Conor McGregor sweepstakes, unfortunately. Because if you were to really do it, it's probably standing like right now like this, like Khabib, Jorge, Tony, and then maybe Usman. But then maybe Nate Diaz above Usman. I don't know. I don't think Usman's really in the running for this thing for a welterweight title. I really, really don't. Just based on name value, based on styles, all that stuff. I really think that when it comes down to it, Jorge Masvidal has to go beat Kamaru Usman to really get himself in line to fight Conor McGregor. That was my big read on yesterday, because I didn't feel like Conor McGregor bit enough on fighting Jorge Masvidal next. I would love it next. I really, really would. Obviously, we all down here would want it. But just kind of getting the pulse of what everybody was saying. Dana White, Conor McGregor, how things were presented from those guys' standpoint. And really, I feel like how well Masvidal made it known that he wants to beat Usman and doesn't like Usman. And was saying things like, all the guys that he trains with and spars with, those are the guys that I taught at American Top Team before they went off to the Black Zillions or Hard Knocks 365. So I thought he really did a great job of selling the fight for the first time. These guys have kind of been like, whatever, who this, who that, and I think that stuff is stupid. Like, you should try and make every opponent seem the biggest thing, because these are great options for each other. They really, really are. I wouldn't be dismissive of stuff like that. And Usman had a really weird take this week too, because he said to MMA Fighting, they were asking about, why are you playing this who angle, and he goes, he's misunderstanding me. He's playing the angle and I'm saying I don't know who he is. I know exactly who he is, and I give him props. That's one thing about me. I'm not a hater in any way, shape, or form. I give respect where respect is due. Him fighting, yeah, I know him fighting. When they brought up the Masvidal, I'm like, who? And I told you, when we talked to Kamaru, he was like, I don't, whoever that is that you mentioned. Obviously we didn't get quite the buzz that ESPN did, but he was pulling that stuff during fight week leading up to the Covington fight. And then he goes, there are guys more deserving of a title shot. Same thing that he told us. Jorge Masvidal doesn't have a win over anybody in the top 6. Doesn't have a win over anybody in the top 6. I've beaten 5 of the top 6 guys in the division. That's why I said that. Now, this is why it's a little bit of a fugazi argument from Kamaru Usman. If you're going to go by now, he doesn't have any guys in the top 6, then your statement would be accurate. However, at the time when he beat Darren Till, when he knocked Darren Till out, when nobody wanted to fight Darren Till, when he knocked him out in London, I believe Darren Till was number 4 in the world. And then when he had beaten Ben Askren was number 5 in the world. Now Ben Askren has retired, and Darren Till has moved on. He is now a top 5 middleweight, which, if anything, should be more of a feather in the cap to Jorge Masvidal. And then Nate Diaz, I know Nate Diaz isn't in the rankings, but, the guy is a superstar, and it wasn't a tough. Everybody was in love with that fight, and is obviously the fight that most people saw. So, well, I shouldn't say that. More people saw the Ben Askren knockout. If not live, they've all seen it by now. If you watch sports, I'm sure by accident you see the Jorge Masvidal Ben Askren knockout. Which, by the way, I gotta give a quick shout out to a former friend of the show, Chase Hooper. I guess I shouldn't say former friend of the show, just friend of the show, Chase Hooper. The dream at the time was the teenage dream when he was going to go fight in Titan FC. They have done a funny thing on UFC. He was like a correspondent for UFC Fight Pass this week. And he's got a resemblance, because he's got the curly hair that's blown out a little bit. He's got a resemblance to Ben Askren, and he goes up to Jorge Masvidal, who's doing a lot of media this week, and he goes, "Hey, I have a question." He goes, "Oh yeah, what's up?" He's like, "Can you apologize what you did to my father?" Masvidal was shook. He's like, "What? Wait, who's your father?" He goes, "Ben Askren." He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." It's great. It's a great bit, and I'm also part of the movement. # Verify Chase. Verify Chase Hooper. Get him get that dude a check mark. He's good. He's a very, very good fighter. But I don't buy Usman. Getting back to it, I don't buy Usman's explanation. Oh, George hasn't beaten him in the top 6. It's like, no, he's beaten guys in the top 5, 2 of them over the last year. They just now they've moved on to other things, which I honestly think should say more about what he was able to do. That they're one's no longer fighting, and one had to move divisions and is a top 5 guy in that division. But But, yeah, getting the landscape of everything yesterday, this is what I think is going to happen. Because I didn't really know. I know Conor said this whole thing that he wants to do the quick turnaround, but after, like, really looking at the UFC calendar for this year and how they've shaken everything out, look, I'm sure Conor McGregor, if he really wanted to, they could find a card for him. They really could. They could find somewhere to put him. But if we're really looking at it, a guy of his stature, that they want to build up fights and they want to give it time and all that stuff, I think it's more likely based on the way he's reacted to everybody. In his ideal scenario, he'd like to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov. Tony Ferguson get hurt, so he fights him in April. Let's say that doesn't happen. Finally, we get the fight we've never gotten. I think he hopes Khabib wins. I don't know if he does. I think Tony has an excellent shot to win that fight. I'm going to say he's going to fight the winner of that fight sometime late summer. I think that we see Masvidal versus Usman. If I had to guess, I'm going to say sometime in June or July. I think that's what's coming up next. I really, really do. I think that's what I think those guys have starting to, I think they get a pulse of it. I think they're starting to fuel the fire a little bit. I think Dana White has made it clear that's the fight he wants to go with. It ain't going to be Leon Edwards. He's fighting Tyron Woodley. I don't even think him knocking out Tyron Woodley in 4 seconds could get him the title shot. I really, really don't. And then we see what happens. I think that almost plays out to a tournament. If Conor beats Khabib, and Jorge beats Kamaru Usman, look at December, baby. December, end of the year card. Conor versus Jorge, champion versus champion, winner take all. Do it at 165 pounds or something like that. I don't know. But I think that's how it's going to shake out. If I'm really looking at my crystal ball and seeing what I think is going to happen, reading the tea leaves of everything yesterday, I didn't get the idea that he really wants to fight Jorge Masvidal next. Because he said yes to everybody. Let's be honest. Conor McGregor has said yes to everybody. Gaethje, Nate Diaz, Holloway, everybody. You know, the Tony, Khabib, Kamaru, Masvidal. He said yes to everybody. But the guy who really gets his juices flowing has been Nurmagomedov. That's never really changed with Conor. I mean, he has been a guy where he has a goal. He has one thing he's focused on. He wants to be a multiple world champion. That's what he's got himself focused on. He loses to Nate Diaz. He wants Nate Diaz again. Doesn't care about the whole too big thing. He loses to Nurmagomedov. Obviously, he has to get a win. He gets his win. Now I think he's going to focus on Nurmagomedov. I think all the other stuff is just circling. The guy's not stupid. He likes to keep his options open, and he wants to keep his mouth in everybody's name. And by the way, did a great job of it. He had Floyd Mayweather putting posters at him about him yesterday. Manny Pacquiao tweeting about him yesterday. Masvidal, obviously. Usman, obviously. All these guys. I mean, everybody who's everybody wanted to get on the McGregor train yesterday. That's why the guy is a money machine, and that's why right now he's the highest commodity in all of combat sports. He really, really is. So that's my read of it. I think that he is going to end up fighting Khabib and or Tony Ferguson for the belt, and that he's going to have a champion versus champion fight at the end of the year. That would be my guess. That would be my guess as to how things go. Now, if he loses, he loses. I don't know what happens then. But if he had his dream scenario played out, that's how I guess it would go out. That he's hoping Masvidal beats Usman, takes care of that, puts up a better stylistic fight for him for the welterweight championship. I think that he wants to fight obviously the winner for the lightweight championship, hoping that it's Khabib, and boom. Then we get back to it. The whole quick turnaround thing, I think it's a good thing to say, but I think that he's going to get talked out of it. I really do. Because I don't know if that viable option is there yet as high as it could be. So that's it, man. That's the breakdown of it all.